with all the people that you connect with and you build relationships with, do you guys form a community so you guys know, like, hey, let's meet somewhere else next?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I live where I do, which is in the northwest of England. So part of that is because we've got mountains here, but um, also it's kind of well, it's definitely a real hub of mountain running in the UK. So we've got a mountain running club locally, but there must be 6 or 7 other mountain running clubs just in this region of like 40 by 40 miles where the mountains are that there's a number of clubs and there's a real community here and right now we're in lockdown, but in normal times we'd have like a Tuesday night club run where we go out in the mountains, and then like maybe a Sunday long run, and maybe like track or hill reps on a Thursday. So there's always like kind of people to meet up with and stuff to do, or even non-running related stuff. You kind of still know that you've got like-minded people around who are always keen to kind of go outdoors and just go for a walk or go cycling or whatever. So it's a really nice place to be.
Awesome.
Like, how many people are normally in a race, and like, can you just join, or do you have to like qualify for these? I mean, you're running at a pretty elite level. Like, what would get you to that point? Is there some races that you have to do well in, like normal running?
Yeah, I mean, in the UK, and my impression in America is that it's the same, is that it's very inclusive. So like in Italy, sometimes they have like these elite only, they're not really, I wouldn't say elite only, but they're like high level of competition races where you might want to be like having done it for a few years before you compete. But here in the UK, it's super inclusive, and yeah, you can pretty much just show up and not really have done a race before, and you'll fit right in. Like in the UK, the sport is slightly different in the sense that a lot of the time the routes aren't marked. So the thing that kind of would stop some people is the fact that you might need to know a bit of navigation, or you might need at least have run the route before so that you know where you're going. But in terms of ability level, I think it's a very inclusive kind of sport. And if you've just kind of spent a few months like getting used to running in the mountains, and you kind of know your general safety and your general navigation, then there's definitely no kind of experience requirement or ability requirement to go and do a race, which is one of the nice things about the sport.
And then how many participants are there usually?
It really depends. Like we have some super low key races here where it might be a weeknight in the spring and you get like 50 people turning up. And then we also have like English and British championship races, which the entries fill up really fast, and you might have like across men and women, you might have 700 or 800. But then I've done like a race in Switzerland, the Sierre Zinal race. I mean, they must get something like 5,000 or 6,000 people doing it. So yeah, it's really just dependent on the race. But yeah, the nice thing is that there's just loads to choose from, whether you want something low key or whether you kind of want the atmosphere and the buzz of like a huge event with like probably some famous people there and stuff. Yeah, there's like a lot to choose from.
Wow. That seems like a lot of people. Like 7 or 8,000 seems like really scary for like running uphill or downhill, just because you like usually want that like little space in front of you to be able to like see and not fall on somebody else or trip them up. Dominoes all the way down.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered like in Seward there's a Mount Marathon race?
Is that the one in Alaska?
Yeah, it's in Seward, Alaska.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered doing that one? It's gotten like a lot more buzz now, but we used to be not as well known. But like the entire city gets taken over, and like people are camping on the side of the road, and it's just like crazy now. But
yeah, I think I've seen videos from that. It looks really cool. Definitely, it looks like you have to be a good descender.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's my like forte, but it looks really cool. And I've never, because I lived in Michigan, I've never actually done a mountain race in the States. So I'm hoping to change that in June. I'm hoping to come do a race in California. So yeah, I'd definitely like to do a few more races in the States, because I've met a few mountain runners from America, and it sounds like, well, there must just be so much to choose from because it's such a vast country, and so many different mountain ranges. And so yeah, I'd really like to do a few more, but I think I'd need to work on my descending a bit more before that one.
Yeah. And then you said like Italy was like the ideal, like I guess the place to be for mountain running, the inspiration, everything. Like what's the difference terrain wise? Like if, because I've never been to Italy, like what does it look like? How is it different?
I think one of the coolest things about the Italian races is like, so for instance, here in the UK, in our mountainous area where I live in the Lake District, we have villages like at the bottom of the mountains. But in Italy, like the mountains are much bigger. So our hills here are like maybe 3,000 foot maximum. And in Italy, obviously, it's the Alps. They're about 4 times that size. So they have villages up on the side of the hill, and so one of the cool things about a lot of their races is you'll start in a town in the valley, and you'll run up through the hill, but every so often you'll pop out in a village, and you'll just be running between like these really narrow like alleyways with 300-year-old houses on either side, and a few goats like with bells on in a field, and cobbled streets and stuff. And there's one really cool race every year in August. It's called Fleta Trail, and one of the reasons I like it is because they have a contest between all the villages, like the little mountain villages that the route passes through, for the best support of the runners. So,
oh, so cool.
And you come out in a village, and there's like a brass band playing, and there's like people just screaming their heads off at you, and they'll all be like dressed up as bumblebees or something, throwing water at you and stuff. It's really cool. So that's like your kind of that one's around about 25k. So you pass through maybe 6 villages, and every village will have like a different dress up theme and stuff.
That's so cool.
So you're never kind of running along for too long before something else interesting happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so cool. And that would be like, so like, it's like, talk about trail running being like, oh, there's something to look at all the time. Like that's definitely like going to distract you while you're running up this giant mountain.
Yeah, it's
that's so cool. Yeah.
I've been to Italy once for a wedding, and yeah, I remember being so amazed going up hills because we were trying to get to our villa, but we had to park the taxi and then walk the rest of the way because the village was on the mountain. So we had to hike up to get to our villa. And if you're running through that, that's very pretty. That's very interesting. You would definitely be distracted.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just gorgeous. And there's so many little historic villages just like tucked away in the mountains. And they're all just almost like untouched by time, just really, really old houses. And like you say, like a lot of them aren't accessible by car and things. So it's kind of special to be able to get there, running or walking or whatever.
So cool.
When you began your races and before you started mountain racing, what is something that you wish you would have known before starting your races?
That's a good question. I wish I would have known about the kind of scene in Europe earlier, or kind of how to get into it, because I probably stayed racing in the UK and Ireland for maybe 7 years before I started going to Europe to race. And then it's only really since like 2018 that I've started doing a lot of races on the continent. And I definitely shouldn't make out like Italy's the only country with good races, because I've done some really good ones in Slovenia and Spain, and I haven't raced in Macedonia, but I've gone training there, and it was really amazing. And Bavaria in Germany, just so many places, and every place the race is a bit different, and the kind of culture around racing or how they celebrate after the race and stuff is a bit different. And so I just kind of wish I'd gotten into it earlier. I just didn't, I probably didn't really know where to start with it all. But once again, once you meet people who are doing the same thing, then you immediately can kind of figure out, where to go and what to do. And I think back to, I really don't think I'm a very coordinated person. Try and start like running downhill when I was only used to running on the flat. Like I was really bad at it, and every so often people would tell you that you're bad at it. I mean, especially because I probably improved at my uphill faster than I improved at my downhill. So there was definitely a few years there where I could kind of get to the top of the hill fairly quickly, and then just lose a load of places on the way back down, and kind of almost like no one was unkind about it, but like people would banter about like, oh, you need to get better at this or that, and so I would kind of get that into my head, like, oh, I'm good on the uphills, but I'm not very good on the down. And of course, as soon as you start telling yourself I'm not good at this or that, then you get to a certain part of a race, and all you can be thinking is, oh, I don't like this. This doesn't suit me. Can't wait for this part to be over. And you've immediately got this negative feedback loop in your brain of just, this doesn't suit me. People are going to pass me, and of course, what happens? And it does take a while to get better at descending, but I think you do get better at it faster if you kind of go easy on yourself and not really tell yourself that you're bad at it. And something it took me a long time to realize was, well, actually, I still haven't been doing this very long, so why don't I just kind of give myself a chance to see what happens if I keep at it. And yeah, I think just as soon as you start looking for things where you're maybe slightly stronger at, like I'm quite good at descending when it's dry, then, even if it's not going to be dry every race, you can start focusing on positives rather than just telling yourself that you're not good at something. And because it's quite a slow progression, you might be a year or two down the line, you might come down a hill and think, oh, I definitely did that better than last time. So accepting that just because you're not better than yesterday doesn't mean you're not better than 2 years ago, and just accepting that like it's a slow process, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to take a while to get better at like climbing or descending or whatever else. I've definitely realized that too. In moving to Washington, I had a long time where I was just working towards building my climbing strength, and it just took a very long time for me. I was definitely didn't come naturally at all. So I can relate to that one. You kind of spoke a little bit about this earlier, but what were your goals for this upcoming year? I know that you said you didn't want to repeat goals or successes that you've already had, and I totally can relate to that because that doesn't really set you up in a good mindset. What are some goals that you are going to work on this year?
I think one of them is the Mountain Running World Cup, which I have done twice before. But the nice thing about that is that every year the races change. So there might be one or two that are the same as the previous year, but they change. So the races scheduled for this year, one of them is the one in California, which I've never done, and then there's a race in the Czech Republic, and there's a race in France, and a race in Switzerland, and they're just all over the place. And you can kind of pick and choose. You don't have to do them all, but it's on a point system. I think it's like, it'll be like your best of 6 races or something like that. So I would like to do that again, and I think I won't necessarily feel the same kind of pressure because the races are different. And again, you get to go in new places and meet new people, and generally kind of have a party after the race and stuff. So it's quite good fun, but I'll try and find a few different ones, especially some races in the UK that I haven't done before as well. So yeah, just try and mix it up a bit.